Every Sunday, Pat Sullivan from Sullivan Hardware and Garden stops by with some great advice. Today, he's talking all about tomatoes.
Well, it is time now to start the great American pastime. That is growing a tomato. You know, you can be judged at cocktail parties about whether you can or cannot grow a tomato. So, some of us do an okay job and some of us don't do very well at all. So I got a few tips for you. First of all, in selecting the tomatoes, most tomatoes are indeterminate. So that means they just grow, they continue to grow as a vine. There's a few that are determinants, and the determinants will kind of go to a pre-described height, usually about 5 foot. This, I think, is the best determinant. This is Celebrity. There's also one called Indy. Not a great tasting tomato, but it's a cool name, right? And then there's the good old patio tomato, which is real bushy, but not a big fan of that one. So I would go with Celebrity. Why would you use a determinant? If you're growing in a container, because what happens is, as the weight of the vine, these things want to tip over unless you can attach it onto the gutter and pull the gutter off the house or something like that. But this would be nice. All right, so the other one, heirloom tomatoes over here, very fun. There's a lot of different heirlooms. They tend to be bigger, great sandwich tomatoes. And then there's the run-of-the-mill Jetstar, Big Boy. Big Boy never does very well in our taste test. Jetstar does. All right, so when you're going to plant, these are vines. You can only do this with tomatoes. Throw some of the dirt out of here. But what you want to do is you want to strip down, because you want this thing planted as deep as you can, or you can lay it in a trough if you'd like. So you pull all the leaves down, kind of pull the roots apart a little bit, and you want to get that thing down as far as you can, even further than that, because that will allow that plant, that vine, to root along that stem, thus evening out the water. But that is probably one of the bigger things here with this is this the problem of the water, where they get too much water, it's this imbalance. So by having it deep, that helps even it out. Also using a fertilizer that contains calcium, because the calcium then, that also helps. So what happens with blossom end rot is when you get a tomato with that soft spot on it, that is the plant borrowing moisture. So, and then it doesn't pay it back very well. So what you can do, calcium. And the other rule of thumb is, don't water a tomato plant in the afternoon hot sun will look wilted. But what it's actually doing is protecting itself from the sun. But we take a wilt, meaning it needs water, and we go dumping water on it. So you look at your tomato plant in the morning. If it's starting to wilt down, that's when you water it. Other than that, you just leave it alone. All right, so you have that. Sometimes we get all plant and no tomatoes. Be careful with the fertilization. We always say you can fertilize when you plant it, and then you leave it alone until it starts setting fruit. Because if you get too much fertilizer on, like I say, it just goes green and it goes vegetative and you get no fruit. Sometimes we get the blossoms and we get no fruit. They shrivel up. Well, if you're in a protected area, these will self-pollinate. So you just get a pin or something like that and you actually can tap it, those blossoms, and that will help. Your neighbor will think you're crazy. That'll help. Tomato cages are another whole thing. None of them are very good because of the weight of the vine, but I would get the biggest you can get with the stake. If you want to impress your neighbor, get the color one. I'd go with red because it'll look like you have an early tomato.